Okay, welcome back to the podcast. Really excited about this conversation. I have Sarah Grant here from Gut Reaction. We've been speaking on and off over the past, 2 or 3 months now, trying to make this happen. You're very, very busy. I work in education as well as doing this. So we've both got a lot going on. So I'm so happy that we've been able to finally be able to sit down and get this conversation done. And one of the areas that I'm always going on about to my clients and even people that I meet that know what I do in terms of helping people, I'm always talking about the gut and how important it is. So it's fantastic to have someone like Sarah on the podcast, who is a specialist in this area, to go in a lot more detail than me. So I'm really excited to learn a lot from Sarah today. And I know you guys listening and watching are going to as well. And I'm going to let Sarah go into a little bit more in depth of what she does, but I'm just looking on some of your socials, Sarah, and I just love one of the intros that you have there, and it just resonates with me. So I hope you don't mind me reading it out. It's find peace with food and eat in alignment with your body. And I just love that. I just absolutely love that. And it's so refreshing to hear that in a world where we have this short-term sight on health, diets and short-term wins. Can I lose some weight? So it's great to hear that. But I'm going to shut up for a moment, and I'm going to let you, Sarah, just kind of give a bit of introduction of who you are and what you do for the listeners.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you for having me here. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, health coach, and an intuitive eating coach as well. I set up Gut Reaction, it was exactly 10 years ago this year, to basically help people who want to reconnect with their health and their nutrition, but in intuitive ways and science-led ways. This emphasis on being free of dieting culture, restrictive food rules, all that kind of overwhelm, which I think is kind of increasingly built up in the dieting world and wellness world in recent years. Here I guess I primarily help people deal with issues related to chronic eating, overeating, comfort eating, so that whole kind of emotional connection with food, and then gut related health concerns as well. So I have a special interest in gut health, and that was primarily from getting into nutrition through my own struggles with IBS. So nutritional therapy to support people with similar challenges in that area has always been like a foundation here as well. So and I guess for awareness out there, I guess I do most of my work on a one-to-one basis as well with people. So it is very much about personalized nutrition. So to your point, John, about aligning mind, body, and food, and eat in alignment with your body, it is that person's body that is the key thing. It's working out what works for each individual that's so important.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear, Sarah, because it's so important that people start to realize that, they when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to feeling better in all aspects of their life, they have to take a very personalized approach to it. And it's something that, I try and do, I do with all of my clients, is see where they're coming from, where their starting place is, because everybody is starting from a very different position. Whether what they've done in the past, their kind of knowledge levels, where they want to get to, how they want to live their lives, it's all very different. So having that very personalized approach, for me, and I'm sure it is for you, is the only way we can really work with people and help people on a deep, long-term level.
Oh, absolutely. And, a lot of people, with nutrition in particular, go outwards looking for those answers about what's going to work for them, which diet out there is going to fit me. And it really does start from within. And we know so much about following diet plans and prescriptive plans now, particularly when it's weight loss orientated, and how they're really kind of destined to fail. So it is really important people kind of go into themselves for the answers. So I have a little bit of a mantra about following your gut, not a diet plan. And so, and I, genuinely, that's what I believe.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, before we get into our main topic, Sarah, I love to do this. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I do love to say, can we just give some people some wins straight off the bat and give people, let's say, 3 things that they can implement into their life, whether that is nutritionally, whether it is a lifestyle change. It can relate to the gut if you want it to, but just 3 things that people can start to think about that they can then start to try and implement, even if it's just one of these 3 into their life.
Okay. Simple isn't always easy, right? But I can say some simple things. So one, I would say slow down. Again, it sounds awfully simple, but so I'm just saying, I mean that in general sense, and specifically just thinking about how you eat, just really bringing that into the moment in your eating experience. I can explain why with pleasure, but I don't know how deep you want to go, John, but the second one is thinking about letting how to relate to unhelpful thoughts that don't serve you, just trying not to get hooked by them, letting them go, because that really does that really can change your life, your relationship with food, relationship with your body, relationship with others. And the third one would be about adding more colour to your plate, which I'll definitely talk to you more about during the course of this podcast for sure. Yeah,
I love those. I think the slowing down and making that time for yourself is so important, particularly nowadays where we're just always switched on to something. We're receiving information all of the time because we have so many different ways to receive information. And I think our eating habits have decreased for that reason. And we're not enjoying food. We're not taking our time with food. We're not necessarily being present when we are eating. We can, we're seeing it more and more so. People are working through lunch breaks. They're trying to send emails whilst eating. And I just think, it's so important that we start to regain that skill of stopping. I know it can be difficult with so much going on in our lives, but just being able to stop and just enjoy food and allow our body to, break that food down in the right way and take its time to do that and go through the process in the best possible way it can. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And I also love the colors on the plate. I use that a hell of a lot with my clients, and just kind of broadening the horizons of like possibilities in terms of things that they can go and try. Because I think we can all fall into that trap of going to the supermarket, going down the same aisles, picking up the same ingredients, and things become really samey all of the time.
Yeah, totally. This very much ties into the kind of whole gut health piece, which we can go into. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I love those 3.
The slow down bit. I mean, for all the reasons you just explained, it is so key. But using your eating experience as an opportunity just to kind of practice getting into that more mindful space can be really helpful. Obviously, just bringing that sense of calm to eating. Also, tying it back into gut health as well, because it's going to help. That mind body connection, the gut brain connection, it's all just going to kick in better. You're going to be calmer. Body's going to naturally produce what it needs to produce, the stomach acid, the enzymes to digest food properly. If you can just bring that bit of calmness to eating, you're probably going to find yourself less bloated from food as well. So it all connects in lots of levels.
And most people, me including in this one, I enjoy food. I love food. And I think giving yourself that time to disconnect from everything else going on, you can enjoy that food even more so, can't you? You can really start to think about the textures and the flavors again, and really connect back to what you're eating, which it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But I think we have lost that, a certain level of that over, how many years.
I see, but it's yeah, I again agree. That would have been like another great tip, just kind of going back into that satisfaction factor, as we call it in the kind of intuitive eating language. But it's just literally finding that enjoyment and pleasure. It is there are some cultures where it's so key, but sometimes we do lose sight of that a little bit, unfortunately. But very important for your relationship with food as well, that you can find some pleasure there, and being more mindful in your approach and your whole experience of eating is going to help. Yeah.
Cool. I love that, Sarah. Brilliant. I wanted to get onto the main piece of our conversation. And again, I see my coaching and my mentoring as education. I want to educate people, and it's not to say I know everything and my clients don't know anything, but I love to educate. And I'm always going on about the importance of gut health and the vast things it can support you within your life, in terms of, not just in terms of fat loss and body compositional changes, but also the way that you interact with the world, the way that you function on a day-to-day basis. So to kick us off in our main topic is, why am I and why are you always going on about gut health, and why it is so important for particularly very busy, driven professionals with a family? Why is it so important that they start to take the steps to increase and improve their gut health?
Good question. So, it's in my philosophy here. I do think that the gut is totally, core, central to our health and well-being, in a few different ways. Both in terms of it being this physiological system that's essentially interconnected with all the other systems of the human body. So it plays a huge role there, which I'll speak to you more about. And also in my philosophy, I also think of the gut in a more philosophical sense, is that kind of seat of our emotions and our inner knowing as well. But in terms of the physical gut, there's quite a few components to gut health, which make it very important to our overall health. So obviously there's lots of noise about the gut microbiome in particular at the moment. More and more people have a broad understanding of what that is, which we can talk about. But of course, the kind of going back a step almost, the gut is that center of digestion and absorption in the body. So how well it functions is going to affect the nutrients that we get from food. That's just going to affect everything that goes on. It's part of our immune system, is our innate to our digestive tract as well. It's got a very protective role as barrier function there as well. And then, like I said, that what we're learning about the microbiome and that's role and the role of that in gut health and broader health is unreal. It's far reaching. It's far beyond just the digestive tract itself. There's loads of connections that are now being made and explored continually through science. It is a real focus of modern science. In nutrition, we've been talking about this since I started practicing, so probably a lot longer, but 20, 30 years of research around this is now building up, but certainly it's accelerated recently, which is quite exciting, and understanding more about the connections with everything to do with longer term health outcomes and our mood and mindset. So
I was going to say, actually, sorry to cut you off there, but I mean, one of the big ones for me is the connection with the brain and the impact that it can have on improving our gut health and the way that we eat, the effect that that can have on our cognitive function and our clarity and our focus for the day, even how well we can sleep, it is so far reaching, isn't it? And I think people are still unaware of, like you say, how far deep reaching it is, and how important it is that we start to address certain things in improving our gut health. We're seeing a lot more people, I see in education, there's very difficult to sleep, particularly younger people now find it very difficult to control anxieties, stress, overwhelm, the ability to stay focused. So for me, I'm starting to talk a lot more about that aspect. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, no, it's it comes into everything. I mean, here at Gut Reaction, most of the people that come to see me face difficulties. Like I said, it could be partly on their relationship with food, or it could be to do with gut health. So they've got specific challenges around their gut health. But what we find when we start working on their gut health is exactly that the effects extend beyond. So I see that in practice, and I guess it just backs up a lot of the research that goes on. But yeah, just to say, in case people, so again, making that assumption that people know what the microbiome is, I just and you've probably talked about it lots, but
no, sure.
we do have this ecosystem of microbes and bacteria, the 100 trillion different bacteria that reside in the gut, primarily in the colon. So that's when we're talking about the gut microbiome, it is that huge kind of concentration and ecosystem that we're actually referring to there. So
yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
what would you say, Sarah, in terms of what are the big barriers that people are facing now, with whether that's in lifestyle, whether that is in nutritional intake? What are the big stumbling blocks and things that are not supporting of the gut and the microbiome? What are people doing that is really kind of hampering that at the moment, that you might be seeing with your own clients?
Interesting. So there's lots to this, because my focus here is on food, nutrition, eating behavior, but actually there's so I'll talk more about that and the impact of that on gut health, but it's actually there's lots of things that will be impacting gut health specifically. I mean, stress is a huge one. Hydration, alcohol, there's a whole realm of things going on in our lifestyle that are going to be affecting gut health. Medications, it could be hygiene, it could be exposure to pathogens and bugs, and there's all sorts going on there. So it's worthwhile just thinking about well beyond nutrition when it comes to gut health. And in terms of your question, barriers, what barriers to making changes, or barriers?
Yeah, I think people get into having habits with specific foods, poor quality foods, and like you said, also specific things within their lifestyle. I mean, you mentioned their stress. I would also, I don't know, you can correct me, but would you throw poor sleep in there as well, like sleep habits?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, again, we know that sleep and a connection with the gut, it works both ways. So absolutely. But so in terms of, we've touched on this, but it's one of the things that people can get stuck doing is eating the same foods on repeat. And often, people feel like their diet's quite diverse, but actually when if you were to really look into that, there is a tendency to pick the same vegetables up, to have the same breads or the same choice of rice, whatever it is, just kind of running through on repeat. And the reason why it might be important to just be thinking of extending those horizons and getting more diversity is because, one thing we do know about that, having a healthy gut microbiome is that having that a healthy gut microbiome is diverse in its types of bacteria. They're growing abundantly, and to achieve that effect, we need to have a diversity of different foods, particularly plant foods, going in that are going to be the substrate for bacteria to feed off. And this lovely beneficial bacteria needs different fibers. It needs polyphenols, which are the colored pigments of plants. So extending our repertoire of foods, particularly colorful plant-based foods, is a key thing that we could all be looking at, and a very positive way to be thinking about nutrition. Like, what more could I be adding in? So again, as we've alluded to, there can be lots of talk of, dieting often focuses on restriction, like what do we need to be having less of? Thinking about nutrition in really positive and expansive terms, just thinking, what more could I be bringing into my daily diet? And that, just helping liberate you from getting in that food rut where you are having the repetitive foods. And it speaks to satisfaction. Having different flavors, having different tastes, that can all come hand in hand with the nourishment as well. So
absolutely. I do something, I don't know if you do this with the people that you work with, Sarah, but I love to bring that diversity up, because like you said, I think it's easier to bring things in than it is to take away. And like you said, when you think about nutrition, a lot of people can think about restriction and low calories and
it's very reductionist.
Absolutely. And one of the things I do like to do with my clients is push them towards, set them a bit of a challenge almost, really, is look at how many plant-based ingredients they're consuming on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes it is quite shocking for them. We've had people that it could be in 3, 4, or 5 different plant-based per day. Some people eating 10. And I really like to push them towards, if we can, over time, towards 20 plant-based ingredients per day. I don't know if that's something that you do or you think is a good thing.
Did you say 20 different plants a day?
Yeah, plant-based.
Wow. I think, again, it goes back to the individual, what their starting point is. And I think, there's some research which was done by, let me think if I got the name right, is it the British Gut? I want to say British Gut Society, not sure, but, there's research around having 30 different plant foods, whether that's fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans,
herbs,
spices, that whole anything that's from a plant, whole grains, whatever it is, but 30 different types over the course of a week is shown to have much better outcomes for gut health than, say, 10 different plant foods. But bringing it onto a daily basis, I mean, I literally do start with each client and their starting point and bringing it back to their meals. But a nice aspiration, aim is even having 7 to 10 different, plants in a day is great. But I like the ambition there. And I think it's actually achievable when you do start really breaking it down. It might sound quite far-fetched, but that is achievable.
I think when you start looking at using the herbs and the spices, it's quite easy to start throwing things into meals and things like that you might not. And I think it's, again, just bringing people's awareness up. Oh, I'm just going to grab that and I can throw that in, whether it's some turmeric or it's cumin or it's some mixed herbs or whatever it may be. I think it's just bringing people's awareness, but I think it's also kind of a bit like, you know, there's this whole thing of you've got to be doing 10,000 steps a day. Now, like if you're only doing 2,000 steps because you've got a desk job, you heavily stressed, you know, you've got a lot on your plate already, to set someone 10,000 steps is going to be very off-putting. It's going to add a lot more stress because I think they've got to hit this magical number, and it's just not relevant for them at that point. And I think like setting that person 4,000 steps just, you know, might be more realistic. And I think it kind of plays with the same idea and the mindset, doesn't it?
It is interesting. I just remember, by the way, it's the British Gut Project that did that.
Yes.
But yeah, no, even the idea of it setting like number related targets. Some clients it works really well. You know, they like these challenges, but actually, yeah, that's not for everyone either. You know, it can be too much. It can feel too rigid. It can feel like they're either hitting that target or not. So again, very different approaches with different people, I think. Broadly speaking, I mean, the way I introduce it is, you know, I do talk a lot about eating the rainbow and keep it, you know, and speaking at that level around food. I just love that concept, just thinking in terms of the spectrum of the different colours.
Yeah.
So literally, you know, what's your next meal? What can I add? What can I do with that meal just to add one more colour to that meal? You know, start that simple. So yeah,
I love that. No, yeah, absolutely. One area that I'm a bit worried about saying the word fasted, because I think, or fasting, should I say?
Okay.
I think it's something that has really been butchered poorly with the industry, and people have done it the wrong way in terms of lowering food intake, restricting food. Where do you stand, and do you think it has a place when we're talking about improving and supporting gut health in terms of the length of time that we're allowing our gut to have away from having to work on breaking down food and consuming food? Do you think that plays a role in helping people at a deep level? Where do you stand on that, Sarah?
That's a really interesting one. So fasting approaches aren't something that I kind of, you know, advocate to most of the people that I work with here. But we do often have exploratory conversations around it. Lots of people are curious about the idea of fasting. The way I like to think about it is that we naturally have an overnight fast. We naturally do that. I think with fasting, to your point, being like kind of a little bit butchered, you know, we've developed diets out of that concept. We've created rules, we've created food rules, and it can become very rigid. And whenever things become rigid in that way and people think they have to break off at a certain time and they can't eat till the next time, for me, it plays into this dieting mentality, which can then come, you know, it's what comes with that. It could be feeling guilty. You know, it sets that I'm either doing it or I'm not mentality, good, bad, right, wrong. And of course, like, you know, I don't see food and eating in that way. I think there are lots of grey areas. And if you try and live too rigidly, you might be sacrificing the enjoyment of eating with friends at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening because you're on your fast. You know, like that's going to just infringe on your life enjoyment as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't kind of encourage people to do these rigid fasts at a particular length of time. But like I said, naturally, we do know that by having a rest overnight, that is a good time for our guts. There's some housekeeping that are, you know, will be done in the gut overnight. So yeah, you know, we can be mindful about that. And I think a lot of the work I do here, I'm always talking about, you know, tapping into, you know, what your body's telling you. And often, naturally, when people have developed a level of awareness, they might not want to be eating super close to bedtime because they know they've connected that might interrupt their sleep, or they might feel, bloated, or they might feel more restless, or any number of effects. So again, just bringing it back into how the body feels. And, you can kind of then trust that your body will naturally want to guide you down a good path without, feeling like you're following this rigid plan.
It comes back to that educational side too, doesn't it, Sarah? I mean, educating people on, if we are going to implement something, why are we implementing that? And how is that going to support us? Is it going to hinder us? And I think it's just, it keeps coming up for me, educating people on, this isn't something that we're doing because it's going to help you over the short term to get this short-term goal. It's something that's going to support you for the rest of your life and is going to empower you, and I think it really just comes down to that, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
I do think, and I think for me it's education, but there's awareness. But the kind of big piece that I would add to that is really around like that deeper kind of body awareness. So being present with your own body. Again, because I love education, but I think, even nutrition, too much going on in the head. It's like, less thinking about the body and more being in the body as well is kind of, part of my philosophy here. So, just a way I like to describe it is, just think, can you practice having like one eye inside the body and one eye looking out? So whatever you're doing, just be thinking, just reminding yourself that, what is going on? What is my hunger like? What is, how am I feeling? Oh, I've just been, working for 2 hours flat, haven't got up, haven't stretched, whatever it is. So I think, that body awareness piece is important alongside the education piece.
Yeah, I love that. I love that one eye out, one eye in. And I think the reason why that resonates with me is because it lends itself back to how we survived only so many millions of years while we're still here. And we kind of lost that sight almost, and that thought, we've got taken over by stresses of life, understandably, a lot going on. I think sometimes I love the idea of coming back, simplifying things and being mindful about things again. And just simple things like that can have such a profound effect on a person's well-being and health, can't they? So I absolutely love that. We've discussed why gut health is so important in all aspects. It's deep underlining, support physically, mentally, and our ability to interact with the world and to function. Now, I know you've talked about how important it is for this to be a very individualized, personal approach, and I completely 100% agree with that. With everything we spoke about, is there a way that we can start looking at putting together, should I say, meals? What should we be looking for? So again, people who might be listening or watching this can then actively think about when they are putting a meal together, a lunch together, or a snack together, or a breakfast together. They start to think about how they want that meal to kind of look. Are there certain things that people can start to move towards?
Yeah. I mean, well, first and foremost, I would say, again, actually what sounds good. So always starting with, what do I really fancy? So I know this is less nutritional, but there's that satisfaction piece. There's no point in trying to, I don't know, eat lentils if you hate them. It's just not going to work. So just really going back to what you fancy, and then building it, in terms of nutritional awareness. I'll keep this really, really simple, but I think top level, it is well worth checking in. Is there enough protein in that meal to keep me satisfied? Because protein really does have that effect on satiety and helping us feel grounded and satisfied and all of that. So that is going to to be key. It's always worth checking in, whether it's plants or animal proteins, but is there enough protein here to actually give me that lasting energy and help me feel full. And then going back to what we were saying about plants and diversity, just protein and plants. What have I got going on here? Can I add more color?
I love that.
That positive, what can I add in?
It's a bit like I've had clients in the past who are really, they've been kind of, I don't know the word to use, but they've been on these crazy short-term fad diets and training programs. And particularly with training programs, they've been told, oh, you've got to squat, or you've got to do this specific exercise to get the best results, and they're just not going to do it because they don't like the feel of it. It doesn't feel good to them. They feel uncomfortable. And it's so empowering to tell people, and like you said, with the food, have something that you enjoy. Like if you're exercising, please just do something that you really enjoy. Don't think you've got to pigeonhole yourself into this thing because somebody has said, oh, it's worked for me, so therefore it's going to work for you. I think that is so empowering to tell people that do the stuff you love, whether it's nutritionally or exercise, activity, changes to lifestyle. And that just gives so many people so much power back, doesn't it, when you start talking about nutrition like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people get fearful when they book in to see some nutritional therapist, because they almost have this Last Supper effect. They think it's the night before, I'm going to eat everything, so I'm going to be told to to not eat all the things that I really like, and to eat all these things that maybe I don't want to be. And I think that can it's unhelpful. It's definitely not helpful.
Absolutely.
But it isn't what nutrition
I don't know about you, but I have some clients that I have to educate and work with and try and pull them away from this all or nothing approach. And as a coach and as a mentor and someone's trying to help people, there's nothing like going, can you just go out and have a really nice meal and just make sure you have a dessert and really enjoy yourself? I just love telling people to do that. And seeing the joy in their face and that, like, oh, can I do that? Yes, of course you can. Like, please go and do it. It's so empowering for them to realize that they can do those things. And more importantly, they should be doing those things, going out to a nice restaurant, having some amazing food that they love and socializing. That's got to be a part of the process of becoming healthier and leading more of a happier life, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. We know restrictive approaches just kind of release that inner rebel in people. So I think we have to take a balanced approach to nutrition. Is there a way for people to connect with it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So is there, when it comes to carbohydrates, what are your thoughts on carbohydrates in terms of where you'd like? Again, I'm not trying to say this is how it needs to be when it comes to carbohydrates. We talked a bit about proteins and plant-based and fats. When it comes to carbohydrates, do you think there is a place they suit people better in terms of where they're consuming them across the day, whether that's in the morning, whether that's around the training window, or should I just say when they're more active? Is there a place we should be putting them?
Oh, I think I've heard you speak about this. It's really interesting. And here I don't get into that kind of with the types of clients that I'm working with. I don't kind of speak to specific times around certain macro groups. I mean, I feel like carbs have been, it's another area of confusion for people, a little bit like fasting, and it's kind of been hijacked, and then people feel all carbohydrates are bad. Again, I hate the good bad thinking as you do, but it's really it can be really kind of confusing territory for people. And of course, carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy, and a lot of carbohydrate rich foods also happen to be foods that supply great levels of fiber for our gut health. And that fiber's substrate for gut bacteria to feed off. So kind of speaking broadly about carbohydrates and getting this idea that all carbs are bad can just lead us down a difficult path for gut health. So no, I keep all of that quite loose. I have again, it will be whoever I'm talking to at that time. It's like, what's going on, what's their relationship with carbohydrates, and exploring the education around it with them personally, to see what they could be doing. But I don't kind of have a blanket on the time, kind of guidance on timings. I generally think most people do best generally when their meals have a balance of all the macros in them. It does make a more satisfying meal and nutritionally balanced if a meal does have all the macro groups in it. If you imagine a kind of chicken salad which has got it's got all the protein bit, and it's got all your colourful plants, and it's got your olive oil and your avocado and maybe some nuts. It's got your natural fats, but if there's no carbohydrate in there, there's no lentil, there's no rice, there's no quinoa with it, there's it might not hit that satisfaction factor. Absolutely. So I think generally people will do well with a balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I mean, is there the one last thing from me, Sarah? I wanted to, if you could, if there's anything that you would like people to stay away from. And again, this is important because we don't want to say, okay, we're going to, whatever foods, options, ingredients, whatever that we're going to suggest, you can never eat this ever again. But is there anything that you would like to see people eating less of that could be hindering their gut health and their gut to be able to function as well as possible? Is there anything that you feel people need a bit less of?
It's kind of an interesting question, because it's like it kind of goes against my principles of trying to we've talked about
on the spot.
What could they be eating less of? I mean, there is a realm of foods that are the kind of like uber processed, ultra processed foods, and I don't just mean I'm not here demonizing processed foods generally. I actually think in modern day there's lots of things that we all have for convenience that are actually it's absolutely fine, even things like dairy, whatever it is, there's a level of processing. But I mean ultra processed foods where there's all sorts of bizarre chemicals in, and foods that are manufactured and processed to really try and get our palates to want more and more of those foods. I think that I guess it's probably like the real fast foods and ultra processed foods that might be tricky, because in the wrong with the wrong person, that could be setting them, they could be setting themselves up to just feel quite addicted to having more and more of those foods. But I think naturally when people are have a generally healthy, intuitive relationship with food, those foods can just play a small role, and it's fine to dip in and out of them. But yeah, if someone was really struggling on that kind of fast food roller coaster, that's difficult. And so we might need to be mindful.
I'm seeing it so more, and it's quite scary, really. I don't want to generalize the whole younger generation, but as obviously being in education and lecturing as well as doing what I do, I'm seeing it so much more, where it's ultra processed foods all of the time, and concentration's down, energy, a whole host of things, and to see what they are consuming is pretty much what you've said. There's a highly processed, quick to get at foods, highly caffeinated foods, sweeteners, and there is hardly any color in this food as well. And I'm seeing it firsthand, and I'm also seeing it in the staff rooms as well, where we need to be aware of this, the amount of processed food that we are consuming across the week, across the month, and just being more mindful of that.
Not even, I mean, I do have a bugbear with some of the food manufacturers who make these foods hyper palatable, so people want more and more of them. But it's not all about the food. It is that pattern, and it's, if you notice that's your pattern, it's a pattern over time that is probably where there's potential that it's going to have an effect on compromising your health or energy in some way. And again, if you can have that awareness around how your body feels, around your energy, around your mood, you can start making those changes from that place, because at the minute you can just start building in some more color, some more plants. Just start even with, as we've been talking about, this positive nutrition, what can I add in with it? I'm gonna have that convenience piece, because just say that's all that you can make space for right now, but what can I have with it? I'm gonna have some fruit, I'm gonna have just maybe start from that place.
Absolutely. I love that, Sarah. Absolutely love it. I mean, I could speak to you all day, but I know you're very, very busy. Just to finish off, is there anything else that you want to address on this conversation when it comes in terms of helping people with their gut health, with their just all round general health? Is there anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
I think we've covered loads of territory.
I didn't want to cut you off too soon.
So no, that's cool. I think, as you said it already, just trying to be present with your body, bring some awareness to how you're feeling. Getting out of your head and just coming back into the body, maybe using that little mantra, kind of one eye inside as well as one eye out. Just practice that. But I
might have to use that one, Sarah, if that's okay.
You can use that. I didn't coin it. I've learned along the way myself, but I like it.
No, I love that. Thank you ever so much. I'm sure the listeners, the watchers, are going to take a hell of a lot from this conversation. And I hope there's more conversations in the future to come as well. I'd love to hook back in with you and see if we can talk to about other aspects of health and lifestyle and how we can help people. So more importantly, for now, where can people find you, to get in contact with you, to learn more about what you do and how you can help them?
Yes, so my website is a good place to start. There's lots of blogs and all sorts of nice info on there. So that's gutreaction.co.uk. I am on Instagram at gutreaction1. I'm on Facebook. And of course, people can feel free to email me as well if they like. It's sarah@gutreaction.co.uk.
Love that. Again, thank you so much, Sarah, and hope to speak to you again in the near future.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me on here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.